Hey everyone, Laz here, Methuselah Mindset. Welcome, welcome, welcome to 2024. Wishing you all a very happy and prosperous new year. And I was just contemplating this. Obviously, this is another one of our episodes in the Knowledge Base series. No sooner have we started 2024 and I'm launching straight into a rather serious and concerning topic. But my reason being is that this is on the recently released report from 2023 from the World Heart Federation, and I felt compelled to share this with you straight away. And I've also got a little treat at the end of this, which hopefully will inspire you. All right, as always, guys, I will give you a brief overview, but please go into the description below, click on the link, read the full article, and educate yourselves. Now, I'm going to squeeze a little extra information, dialogue in today's session, primarily because it is the start of the new year. Despite the gravity and seriousness of this topic and report, I sincerely want you to go away with a positive outlook. Relatedly, as part of my research around this, I've happened upon a rather amazing and inspiring woman, Nanette Wenger, Dr. Nanette Wenger, which I will share with you at the end, so stay with me. All right, so quick definition of cardiovascular disease. It's a big umbrella term. Is the term for all types of diseases that affect the heart or blood vessels, including coronary heart disease, clogged arteries, which can cause heart attacks, stroke, heart failure, and peripheral artery disease. Cardiovascular disease, they refer to them as CVDs, affect the heart or blood vessels and can be caused by a combination of socio-economic, metabolic, behavioral, and environmental risk factors. These include high blood pressure, unhealthy diet, high cholesterol, diabetes, air pollution, obesity, tobacco use, kidney disease, physical inactivity, harmful use of alcohol, and stress. For decades, CVDs have been the leading cause of death globally. Just think about that. All of these things that can, end our time on this beautiful planet very quickly. Cardiovascular disease is the number one killer. In 2021, 20.5 million people died from a cardiovascular condition, a figure that accounted for around 1/3 of all global deaths. 1/3 of all global deaths, and was a significant increase, unfortunately, from the 12.1 million CVD deaths recorded in 1990. Ischemic heart disease is now the leading cause of premature death in 146 countries for men and 98 countries for women. Worryingly, global progress against cardiovascular disease is flatlining. Boom. Though rates of CVD deaths globally have fallen in the last 30 years, this trend has begun to stall, and without concerted efforts, is at risk of reversing. Get your heads around these figures. More than 500 million people around the world continue to be affected by cardiovascular diseases. Close to 1/3 of all deaths globally, and an overall increase on the estimated 121 million CVD deaths. Up to 80% of premature heart attacks and strokes can be prevented. They can be prevented. The world has the tools and knowledge to mitigate harms to cardiovascular health, particularly with the advances in cardiovascular medicine in the last 50 years. But too often, the tools that can help diagnose, prevent, and treat CVDs are not benefiting the communities who need them most. Around 4 in every 5 CVD deaths occur in low and middle income countries, and progress in cardiovascular health is increasingly concentrated in high income countries, a glaring health inequity that must urgently be addressed. Now let's look at these primary risk factors for cardiovascular diseases. Physical inactivity, not exercising enough, sodium intake, bad diet, alcohol consumption, tobacco smoking, obesity, raised blood pressure, and I'm going to take a little bit of a deep dive on diabetes. Now, in the actual report, it takes a deep dive on all of these primary risk factors. But I was really just overwhelmed by some of this information on diabetes. 1 in 11 adults are affected by type 2 diabetes worldwide, 1 in 11 adults. Type 2 diabetes mellitus is a major global health threat. It affects 425 million people, with the overall figure predicted to rise to 629 million by 2045, and accounts for approximately 90% of all patients with diabetes. All of those living with diabetes are at a heightened risk of CVD, making the prevention of CVD onset a major priority. In 2015, the global economic burden of type 2 diabetes mellitus was estimated to be $1.3 trillion, or 1.8% of the global GDP. And it is estimated that this burden will increase to 2.1 to 2.5 trillion dollars by 2030. 12% of global health expenditure is spent on diabetes, $727 billion. Despite the high prevalence and burden of diabetes worldwide, diagnosis and treatment continue to fall behind required levels. And the two remaining primary risk factors are lipids and ambient air pollution. Excuse me. Key findings: CVD mortality. CVDs are the leading cause of mortality and amount to about a third of all global deaths. The estimated number of deaths due to CVDs globally increased from around 12.1 million in 1990 to 20.5 million in 2021. While the number of deaths due to CVDs over the last 30 years has increased globally, in large part due to an aging and growing population, the age standardized death rate has declined by 1/3. From 354.5 deaths per 100,000 people in 1990 to 239.9 deaths per 100,000 people in 2019. This decline has slowed in recent years and is beginning to stall in some regions. The decline in death rates for CVDs has been much faster in high-income countries, and we're going to touch on this in a minute, compared to low and middle-income countries, where more than 80% of CVD deaths occur globally. The world is far from achieving the equitable distribution of prevention, diagnosis, and treatment of CVDs. CVD risk factors. Raised blood pressure is the leading CVD risk factor globally and contributed to about 10.8 million deaths in 2021. Primary causes of high blood pressure include smoking, drinking, excess alcohol, not exercising enough, obesity, and relatedly not eating a healthy diet. Most CVD risk factors, including physical inactivity, alcohol consumption, tobacco smoking, raised blood pressure, and diabetes, are higher in males in comparison to females. Obesity is the only risk factor that is higher in females. The distribution of CVD risk factors varies by sex. For example, for males, the prevalence of smoking is highest in the Southeast Asia, East Asia, and Oceania region, while for females it is the highest for the high-income region. The North Africa and Middle East region had the highest prevalence of obesity for females, and the Southeast Asia, East Asia, and Oceania had the highest for males. Non-HDL levels are highest in the Central Europe, Eastern Europe, and Central Asian region for males and females. Some of the key recommendations, one of the primary key recommendations from the World Heart Federation is that all countries and stakeholders must urgently unite to accelerate efforts on improving CVD health and get progress back on track, because it's stalled, so that Sustainable Development Goal 3.4, which is what they've named it, of reducing by 1/3 premature mortality from NCDs can be achieved. This goal aligns with the World Heart Federation Vision 2030. The decline in death rates for CVDs has been much faster in high-income countries. So I just want to sort of highlight this compared to low and middle-income countries. It makes sense, right? Where more than 80% of CVD deaths occur globally. The world is far from achieving the equitable distribution of prevention, diagnosis, and treatment of CVDs. Now, statistics. Now, and remember, this is a large report, so I'm just giving you some features here and some highlights and some summaries. Statistics show that the high-income regions that include USA, Canada, United Kingdom, Ireland, Australia, New Zealand, France, Italy, Portugal, Spain, Germany, Norway, Sweden, Finland, and Argentina, that most countries are characterized by high levels of behavioral risk factors. Okay? Things we can control, choices we make. Namely, high levels of sodium, bad diet, and alcohol consumption, high levels of tobacco smoking, and low physical activity. They also have high levels of non-HDL cholesterol in both sexes and high obesity levels in men. Now, this is what I want to touch on here. I'll just jump on my soapbox for a short time. Bear with me, humour me. I'm extremely lucky to live in New Zealand, one of the so-called high-income regions. I've also lived in Australia, the USA. I've visited, worked in Europe, the UK, and Canada. Now, I mention this because, relatedly, due to this, I can at least talk to and offer an opinion as to what I have experienced in these regions. I cannot, however, relatedly, due to this, I cannot, however, offer any opinion regarding those 80% of low-income countries affected by CVDs, obviously, and the struggles they are forced to endure. I've briefly visited South Africa, Namibia, Botswana, and Zambia, and have in fact experienced firsthand the very harsh and unforgiving climate and economic conditions they have to survive in. Where am I going with this? They don't have the luxury of choices that us in the high-income countries, of which I've just previously mentioned, do. And I'm referring, guys, to those primary risk factors for cardiovascular diseases that I mentioned previously. Primarily, smoking, alcohol consumption, bad nutrition and diet, and not exercising. Now look, I will step down off my soapbox, all right, because I don't want to preach to you so early in 2024. Because it's just common sense, guys. You want to keep yourself out of the hospital, I am sure. That would be a given, right? And I'm not going to say you shouldn't do this or that, all right? But let me please offer a couple of suggestions for 2024. All right? If you're a smoker, I don't know, if you're smoking 10 cigarettes a day for a couple of days a week, just try smoking 5. Just try it. Likewise, with your diet and nutrition, all right? It's such a huge subject, nutrition. Just try maybe some healthy snacks. Try one meal a day being, primarily vegetables and whole grains and healthy, all right? Just try one meal a day, or just your snacks, or maybe 1 or 2 days a week. Just small steps. Just try it. Just try it out and see how it goes. You've got nothing to lose and so much to gain. All right? Likewise with exercise. Okay? Would I love you to jump on the Methuselah Mindset website and, of course, the YouTube channel and try some of my high-intensity workouts and many of the other workouts? Of course I would. Okay? The science, again, supports the fact that resistance training is one of your best defenses against this and many other diseases. But you don't have to do all that. Just try maybe going for a walk twice a week for 30 minutes. Okay? Cycling, swimming, whatever it does that spins your wheels. But just try something, some form of exercise a couple of days a week or even 1 day a week. Just start somewhere. Okay? So, a couple of basic just suggestions, guys. Cut down on the smoking. Reduce your alcohol intake, even if just for a couple of days a week. All right? Just cut it back. And likewise with your nutrition and your exercise. Just try doing it once a week, but start somewhere, please. Okay, down off the soapbox. Let's finish on a positive and hopefully very inspiring note. Because look, for all those things, there's one ingredient, in my humble opinion, that you need, and that's discipline, self-discipline. Very easy to say, much, much harder to translate that into action, okay? If you've seen my previous videos, I've been, 115 kilos. I know that battle is to get fit and healthy. It's not easy, okay? So discipline is so very, very much required. And I'm going to offer you some inspiration on that note. All right. If you want a really outstanding example of determination and discipline, then in my humble opinion, there could be no better example than the amazing Dr. Nanette Wenger. I subscribe to the Harvard Medicine magazine, who dedicated their entire autumn-October edition in 2023 to the heart. Multiple articles, linked below in the description. One of the articles detailed some of the groundbreaking research being carried out by Dr. Nanette Wenger. Let me tell you about her. Apologies. Dr. Nanette Wenger is an American clinical cardiologist and professor emerita at Emory University School of Medicine in Atlanta, Georgia. She was born September the 3rd, 1930, in New York City to parents who had immigrated from Russia to the United States and settled in New York. She is 93 years old. She's 93. Dr. Wenger has been a leader in the cardiology field as she has authored and co-authored more than 1,300 scientific and review articles and book chapters. Over the course of her career, Wenger became one of the first doctors to focus on heart disease in women. Since this disease was initially thought to primarily affect men, in 1993, Wenger co-wrote a landmark review article that demonstrated that cardiovascular disease does similarly affect women, since at that time, women were more likely than men to die from the disease. She also helped write the 2007 guidelines for preventing cardiovascular disease in women. She has devoted the rest of her career to understand how heart disease, specifically coronary artery disease, affects women, as well as advocating for the need to disaggregate study results and report gender-specific analysis from clinical trials. When Wenger attended Harvard Medical School, and this I find so inspirational, when Wenger attended Harvard Medical School in 1954, women were accepted only on a trial basis. It's quite difficult to unpack and process now in 2024 that is how it used to be in the 1950s. There were a mere 10 women in her class, yet she looks back on her experience fondly, recalling strong camaraderie with classmates and mentors. Dr. Wenger's visionary career is all the more remarkable because she forged it at a time when women doctors were anything but commonplace. She declared a pre-medical major at Hunter College before being accepted into Harvard Medical School's class of 1954, just the 6th class to include women. This has been a male bastion, she said. They admitted 10 women to each class, and they were just learning how a co-ed class would perform. We educated them, she said. I think she's amazing. Dr. Wenger found 2 mentors at Harvard Medical School, Doctors Herman Blumgart and Lewis Wolf, both of whom are cardiologists and clinicians. They were just so encouraging and supportive that I knew I was headed for cardiology, she shared. Just 2 years after graduating from Harvard, she became the first woman named chief resident in cardiology at New York's Mount Sinai Hospital. A literature search turned up nothing about heart disease in women, so Wenger began approaching national cardiology organizations. She was initially met with resistance, along with insistence that women don't have heart disease, but she persisted, the discipline. Eventually, what is now National Heart, Lung and Blood Institute agreed to organize a conference on the topic, which she co-chaired. She co-authored a seminal paper in the New England Journal of Medicine that summarized recommendations from the conference, including how to treat women with heart disease and what research on the topic was needed. The emerging information and knowledge deficits interested clinicians and scientists in the subject, she says. Wenger spent decades studying and raising awareness about heart disease in women, work that has elevated her to rock star status in the cardiology community and culminated in more than 1,700 scientific publications, as well as several awards named in her honor. Yet, we've just begun the journey, she cautions, noting that women who have heart disease still don't fare as well as men. Fortunately, Wenger shows no sign of slowing down. She's 93. She continues to see patients, carry out research, and train young physicians with the same dedication and enthusiasm she had during her first years in medicine. Dr. Wenger is 93. Can you even begin to imagine the enormous hurdles she must have encountered on an almost daily basis for years as she studied to become qualified? Remember, it was the 1950s, a tremendously male-dominated and very different world compared to what we live in now. But she persevered, she endured, and ultimately achieved enormous success. And I would offer that she achieved all of this in great part to incredible drive and discipline, guys, discipline. I have included a link below to a short YouTube video she conducted on leadership. I challenge you, after viewing this, to not be just so tremendously impressed by Dr. Wenger and inspired. Definitely my number one role model for 2024. All right, guys, as always, please, 2024, love, respect one another, set yourself some realistic goals for 2024 and have the discipline, the personal discipline to achieve them. All the best.